Hi, and welcome to the How Do I video series on Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015. In this video, I will explain how to deploy Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 on two different Microsoft Azure virtual machines. You will see how easy it is to deploy Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 on Microsoft Azure using sample PowerShell scripts. The scenario in this video will cover the deployment on two different virtual machines. The first one for the database server and the second one for the NAV server. I will do this in 5 different steps. In step 1, I will explain the deployment concept and how to prepare all the custom parameters. In step 2, I will show how to use the sample PowerShell scripts. In step 3, I will create a Microsoft Dynamics NAV virtual machine on Microsoft Azure. In step 4, you can see how to access Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 on Azure using different clients. And finally, in step 5, we will review our results. The concept demonstrated in this video includes two virtual machines based on a Microsoft Azure image. On one machine, the Microsoft Dynamics NAV web server and the Microsoft Dynamics NAV server are installed. And the Microsoft Dynamics NAV database components for SQL Server are installed on the other machine. I recommend to watch the video How Do I Deploy Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 on one Microsoft Azure virtual machine. Step 1 of this video demonstrates how to prepare the deployment of NAV on Azure. You can see how to create a Microsoft Azure account, how to install Microsoft Azure PowerShell, how to import the Azure Publish settings file, how to download and install additional tools, and how to prepare the Set Partner settings file. Let's now have a look at how to use sample PowerShell scripts. Most of the parameters of the Set Partner settings custom file in PowerShell ISE are the same as when you deploy NAV on only one server. However, we have to take into account the following settings that are different. NAV Azure Service Name will specify the name of the virtual machine in which the NAV server will be installed, not the one for SQL Server. NAV OS Image with SQL Server is the image with the SQL Server installation. And NAV OS Image without SQL Server will specify the NAV server. In the video How Do I Deploy Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 on one Microsoft Azure virtual machine, I explained how to use the Get Azure Virtual Machine Image command with conditions for SQL Server searching. I will now use the same command but with different conditions to get the image with only Windows Server. Next, I will specify the name of the virtual network in which we want to deploy our virtual machines. You can see that I'm using my NAV 2015 VN5. Then I have to specify the name of the virtual machine to create for hosting SQL Server and the NAV SQL database components. In my scenario, this is my NAV 2015-22. And if I scroll down, I can also enter the affinity group. Affinity groups allow you to group your Azure services to optimize performance. Notice that when you deploy NAV on two different virtual machines, they have to be in the same affinity group. All the other parameters are exactly the same as when you deploy NAV on only one virtual machine. In the following step, I will create a Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 on Microsoft Azure virtual machine. Let's start by opening the example 2VM PowerShell script in ISE and run it. This script will use all the data in the Set Partner settings custom file we created in the previous step. By running the script, Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 will deploy on two different Microsoft Azure virtual machines. Once this process is finished, you can see the following important parameters as a result: our virtual machine names and their credentials, the URL for the Click Once download, and the URLs for the web client and the web services. We will also get the credentials for the user added in the database. I will now copy all these parameters to a Word file. If I now check the Azure portal, I see the two new virtual machines with the names we assigned before. Now we can access Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 on Microsoft Azure. I will do this by pasting the URL for click once in my web browser, and after accepting the Microsoft Dynamics NAV software license terms, I can install the Windows client. By using another URL, I can run the Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 web client. And also the tablet client will perfectly run. And finally, we can also open links to the SOAP and OData web services. By using the Connect shortcut on the Azure portal, you can connect to your virtual machines with remote desktop connection. Bear in mind that you need to use two different connections, one for the NAV server and one for the SQL server. So, after executing previous steps, Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 is deployed on two different virtual machines. On the virtual machine with the NAV server, you can see a full Microsoft Dynamics NAV client, the NAV administration shell, IIS with click once and web client sites, and last but not least, an uploaded NAV installation DVD. On the virtual machine with database server, there is the Windows server with SQL Server. You can also find the NAV database on this SQL server. And finally, you can also find a part of the installation DVD with the database backup. The virtual machines on the Microsoft Azure portal have different endpoints. On the virtual machine with SQL Server, we have remote desktop and PowerShell endpoints, while on the virtual machine with NAV server, you can find all necessary endpoints for the Windows client, the web client, and web services, and so on. This is because we need these endpoints only on the NAV server to log on NAV. So, to wrap up, these were the steps I followed. First, I showed you how to prepare all custom parameters. Then I demonstrated the PowerShell samples and how to change the parameters. Next, I installed Microsoft Dynamics NAV on Microsoft Azure. And after that, I accessed NAV on Azure. Finally, I showed you the results. By doing this, I covered the following topics: preparing for deploying Microsoft Dynamics NAV on Microsoft Azure, deploying Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 on two virtual machines on Microsoft Azure. To learn more about these topics, visit the Get Started page and follow the links on the screen. Thanks for watching this video about deploying Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 on two different Microsoft Azure virtual machines. This video in the How Do I series about Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 is brought to you in collaboration with Microsoft and Platan.